Welcome into Life, Love, Faith, and Family. I'm Dr. Tim Clinton, co-host here, along with my son, Zach, and thank you for joining us. We have a incredible program today. We're going to be talking about gray divorce and all the challenges around marriage, how to keep love close, how to get through maybe some tough spots, and what is happening at that kind of midlife time when people are pushing the reset button, and what are the implications of it. Our special guest today is Dr. Sharon May. She is a marriage and family therapist par excellence, one of my favorites. She's the founder and director of the Safe Haven Relationship Center out of Carlsbad, California.
Yes.
And again, she is one of the best in this area. I love having conversations with Sharon. She also serves on our AACC Executive Advisory Board. Great to have you, Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Tim. I look forward to talking with you and your audience.
Sharon, as we get started, we've had this conversation many times. Ecclesiastes 9:9 says, live joyfully with the one you love all the days of your life. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, there's nothing better in all the world than to love someone and build love back. Nothing more painful in all the world than to be in a relationship with someone who's supposed to love you and they don't love you. You know that? And that can create some pretty long, sleepless nights, maybe a lot of arguments, pain for children in the middle of all of it, and more. And so I think every day people are looking for some type of remedy, anything, Sharon, to help, keep their hands clasped and their love strong. But it seems like everything in this culture is competing for our love, our affection in marriage, isn't it?
It certainly is. And it is difficult for a couple to say, we're not really getting along. I'm not really happy. Does it mean I stay married, or does it mean I go and divorce and leave to go find love somewhere else? Is there hope for my marriage? Maybe I married the wrong person. Maybe we're just too different. And can we find love? And Tim, a lot of couples are asking that. The highest divorce rate, is in the first 7 years, but a lot of couples are asking that question who've been married 20 years or more.
Yeah. A lot of people look at this gray divorce thing as people who kind of over the age of 50. You would think at that age that you probably have got a few things figured out together, but it's not true. Pretty high divorce rate right in that area. Yeah. So like kind of around that silver anniversary, 25 years together. And all of a sudden, but when you sit back and you begin to think about it, Sharon, a lot of changes begin to happen, say in that phase of life. The kids are pretty much grown, gone off to school, what have you. And there's some interesting phenomenons that happen, I think, but I just want to talk about what do you think is in particular leading to that frustration, maybe that abandonment at that particular level? What have you seen? What have you learned?
Right. People are living longer and healthier. And so people coming into their 50s and even 60s are saying, I still have a long life ahead of me. And I'm in a marriage now where I'm not happy. We're not getting along. And there is usually a life event, like kids leaving for college.
And so they raise the kids together.
They raise the kids
together. So we
together.
did that job, and now we're kind of looking at each other because we're both at home now, and maybe we're not running the kids all over creation.
Yes.
And they were the centerpiece of our home. Yes. And now it's like me and you, and I don't know if I know you anymore. I certainly don't know if I like you anymore.
Right. And that emptiness or that adjustment period, that is an existential internal experience where we're saying, well, who am I now? What do I want in life? What's meaningful? It's also a transition of aging. It's a transition into, this is a whole new season of my life. Now, what do I want to do? And if they turn to their spouse saying, I've asked you for all these years, we need help, we're not getting along, and we haven't. Now, is it really going to change? I'm unhappy.
Sharon, I've heard some discussions and seen a little bit of work around midlife men. They say tend to turn back toward their marriages, their spouses, women tend to turn away from
Yes.
their relationships, their
Yes.
spouses. And some of the discussion there is he went to work, he busted his tail, tried to get things figured out, probably hit a glass ceiling, and is pretty discouraged or frustrated. All of a sudden, he's waking up and thinking about what really matters, especially as the math starts changing in age. You begin to realize I'm sort of in that phase of life where, there isn't much runway here, that, and I feel pretty lonely or what have you. For women, the other side of it I've heard them say is, hey, listen, I gave everything I had to you.
Right.
You treated me like a dog. You weren't there for me. I had to do this thing by myself.
Right.
And I don't like that. And I don't know that I want to do that anymore.
Yes.
And I don't know if I like you moving up close to me, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden wanting to hold my hand or kiss my face.
Right. And you're so right. That is so spot on that men are focused on their careers. And not to say that women aren't focused on their careers, but the women feel that emotional burden of the family. And they feel even if they worked full time, I had to come home after work, take care of the family. And women usually say at these gray divorces is one, my complaints about you and our marriage have been there from the beginning and nothing changed. I had to adapt, adjust, put up with, be the good wife. This is what God wants me to do, and I had to do it for the children. But somehow the woman reached this age where the husband's like, oh, let's go on a vacation together. And she's like, we haven't taken a vacation, you and I, for ages. Now suddenly you are wanting to. My heart is closed. I have developed a group of friends. I have now my own interests.
Yep, shifting
and
priorities. I may
shifting-
want to go back
yes.
to school. You never let
Yes.
me go to school. I had to raise the kids, etc. By the way, which you
Right.
never helped me with. Hey, we're talking about gray divorce here today, and let me share a statistic with you from 2021. In case you're thinking, I don't know if that's really how significant it is. The U.S. Census Bureau reported that 35% of divorces were among Americans. Catch this: 55 years of age and older. Now, I mean, I'm sitting back like shocked at this. I'm thinking, seriously?
Yeah.
Yes, seriously. Sharon, it really is an issue. You think it too has to do with, that boomer generation and maybe some, I don't know, changing perspectives on marriage too?
Oh, absolutely. I think our culture has said you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be loved, and this individualistic thinking, that I deserve it, I'm entitled to it.
Or that you don't have to work for love,
Yes.
work for relationships. Or
Yes.
maybe they're just like exhausted,
Yes.
that, and don't know if they have anything else to give. And so
Yes.
here, this
Yeah.
creates this kind of mix of what in the world happened to us stuff.
Yes. And that is
And I don't know if we can fix it.
Right, the hopelessness comes in. And it is when they look back, especially the wives can tell stories, and the husbands, from the beginning, that when we first got married, I had to move for your job, alarm. I then had to quit my job, to stay home with the kids. You then allowed your mom to speak rudely to me. I asked you, can we go play tennis or go for walks, but you were always tired. I asked, can we keep date night sacred, but you were too tired and wanted to go to the kids' games. Then I asked you to back me when disciplining the kids, but you said I was nagging too much. And wives and husbands go through their whole marriage history, pinpointing these moments over the history of the marriage where there were two things. One, I didn't feel you were my safe haven. And at that point, the alarm sounded off and I turned away from you instead of towards you. And the accumulation of those hurts finally hit a door, and there was an attachment injury. Events had happened that said, no, I'm closing my heart towards you. And at some point in a marriage, the husband or the wife closed their hearts towards the spouse, but then realigned their life so that they could get along and join together around the schedules of the family when they were emotionally disconnected.
Yeah.
And that, if I am talking to your audience, and I sat down with each one of you couples listening, I would say, if there is a time in your marriage, if it's right now where you feel we're emotionally disconnected and I feel a wall coming up and I feel myself just going, then I'll just put my energy into taking care of the family. That is a red flag, because if you come to 25, 30 years of your marriage and you're still at that place, you're going to be tired and weary. You're going to feel like you're dying on the vine, and you feel like you're not going to have the energy to keep going with it.
Sharon, an interesting phenomenon that we've seen in these kind of patterns is that literally in the name of love, you can begin losing it, love in your relationship. So all you might be thinking is, all I've ever wanted is for her to love me. All I've ever wanted is for him to love me. And so I create these expectations. Why don't you, for example, leave me a card, send me flowers? Why don't you ever take me on a date? Why don't you just say that I look nice? Why don't you treat me well? Stop ignoring me. You know that? You treat me like I don't even exist. You don't even treat me like a human being. And that's the stuff that begins to, by the way, lodge in your heart. So what you do is, all I've ever wanted is the old Sharon back or the old Tim back.
Yeah.
The truth is, I don't know if I like you anyway, so I'm not bringing you flowers. I'm not bringing you a present. You know that? I'm not calling you, because every time I call you, all we do is fight.
Right.
And so we shut down. And the tragedy is, all that does is it continues to build this wall and create distance between us. And then, I like what you said earlier. You said that I have this secret in my heart. I don't know that I like you anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love you. You hear what I'm saying? And I know that love isn't just emotion. I just don't know where I'm at anymore. And then anger can begin to build. And we often associate, Sharon, I want you to talk about this, anger with outbursts and things like that. No, sometimes it's a critical spirit or a closed spirit.
Yes. And that is key, the closed spirit. That is a warning sign that if my spirit is closing towards my spouse, where I'm saying, for years I've asked you for these acts of love that demonstrated, I've asked you for moments of togetherness that can build this bond between us and create the safe haven. I've asked you for years, and we haven't done it. And then I don't, call you to go to lunch with you because you don't call me to see how my day is. And we both start backing away. And to catch ourselves before we find our feet over the edge of the cliff. One, if you find your feet over the edge of the cliff, there is hope. There is hope. This is a season in marriage where you come after 25, 30 years of marriage. My parents, who were married for over 70 years before they died, said, Sharon, when couples come and they've been married 50, 60 years or 30, tell them this is part of the season. You will grow apart and away and say, who are you? I've been hurt for so many years. Get through that season to the other side so you can grow old. So one, I want to normalize this phase of your marriage. Get help. You don't have to be a part of the gray divorce statistic, but back up if you're not there yet. Know that your spouse just wants to know that you love me and care for me. And I need to know that you love me and care for me. So every day, have in your schedule those moments of fostering that safe haven. I love you and I care for you. We've got babies, they're crying. We don't have date nights. Kids are in high school, we're so busy. Kids are in college, always bringing their washing home. We're busy, but I love you, I care for you, and I want to work on this and grow old with you. We have to remind ourselves that actually is what we both want, or we do lose sight and say, I'm done.
You're listening to Life, Love, Faith, and Family. I'm Dr. Tim Clinton, co-host here along with my son, Zach Clinton. Our special in-studio guest today is Dr. Sharon May, marriage and family therapist par excellence. comes out of California. We've worked a lot together. She heads up the Safe Haven Relationship Center, which is an amazing entity and organization that offers, by the way, intensives for couples who are, say, in a spin. They're in trouble and they've been trying to get out of it and they can't, and they see things are going the wrong direction. They may be headed for divorce. And how do you arrest that process? She specializes in that. I have sent a lot of people her way, and I am so thrilled by the work that she and her team do out there at Safe Haven Relationship Center. Sharon, this gray divorce subject really has my attention because I continue to see this more and more in couples around me. Julie and I are in that mid-later years of life, and when we see couples, there are a lot of Christian couples out there who people think they get along. At the end of the day, they don't fight, but they come and they kind of just exist.
Yeah.
The truth is, they don't fight, but they don't even talk to each other. The truth is, they don't even like each other.
Yeah.
And somehow they've just figured out a pattern, and it's like, I'm waiting for God to do something. God gets the blame here for a lot of our inertia. You know that he's supposed to do something spectacular when sometimes maybe God's waiting on us. To say, hey, listen, what are we going to do here?
Yeah.
Am I going to let these, quote, good years of my life continue to fade like this?
Yeah.
Sharon, and that too is an expression of anger, because I remember reading a little bit of what's called the anger of hope and the anger of hopelessness.
Right.
And they're two different worlds, aren't they?
Yes.
And by the way, you start drifting into the anger of hopelessness, you're in a spin. You're in trouble. It's really a massive red flag.
Yes, absolutely. And there again, have hope. If you can't pull yourself up from the edge of the cliff, get help so you can have that counselor help you if you can't do it on your own. And that when you come to a place of saying, I don't think God wants me to be this unhappy, I've had to put on a front for the church, for my Bible study group, for the kids, but no one's known, even for my family, no one knows how sad and alone and disconnected I really am. And to be able to, at that point, know just because I'm at the edge of the cliff doesn't mean I need to jump off and divorce. Because a lot of couples say, what will my church say? What will my Bible study group say? What will my family say? And then they say, but you know what? I am deserving of love. I am deserving to not live in such a disconnected...
I think God wants us to love
Yes.
and be loved. I think he sees the beauty in all of it. And when that radiates in our life, I think it ultimately points us back to what it means to be loved by a creator God who's there for us and who wants to embrace us, and he does, and he wants to help us and to do life well. Sharon, this communications model in marriage becomes, I think, important here, because the anger of hope, what we do is we begin to do things like criticize each other, maybe just say little bitey things to try to get you to respond to me. It's like the problem in our marriage is you're not the spiritual leader, okay? Or the problem in our marriage is you never tell me you love me. Now, those things bite and they hurt. But what we learned in communications model was this, that they're probably being said to try to get you to what? Love me. I'm trying to get you to respond to me. However, it's coming out in a way that, quote, does the exact opposite. It's driving us apart rather than getting us to respond. And so this communication issue becomes a real problem. And also, if I go all the way through to criticizing, contemptuous, being defensive or whatever, if I get to the place, I can eventually begin to lock down and stonewall you out. This is what John Gottman taught in his 4 Horses of the Apocalypse. Yes. And what he was saying was, what happens there is I simply say, you know what? You're never going to touch me again. I'll never go out with you. I'll never do anything. I will not do that anymore until you prove to me that you care for me. Yeah. You know that? And I mean it. You better prove it. Yeah. And you better be safe, because every time I've tried to reach out to you, all you've ever done is hurt me. So I shut you down, and I may cut you off, if you will, in every way possible. And that's that anger of hopelessness.
Yes.
Those are the seeds being sown there,
Yes.
where, yeah, we don't fight. You know why? Because I'm not fighting with you anymore.
Right.
I'm
And
disengaging.
absolutely. And where, Tim, that comes, John Bowlby's research on attachment, when children are trying to get their parents, love and attention, John Bowlby saw the anger of hope. And we see it in couples. I have the anger of hope. If I get angry, hopefully you will see, I need date night. Come and hold me. Help me with the kids. Can you do the dishes? Can you think of what we need at the grocery store? It's the anger and hope she'll see me. But if those efforts don't work, I move to despair. I move to, it's not working. Nothing's going to change you. Nothing's going to get you to come close to me. And I then move from despair to disconnection. Then you know what? I need to just go on and have my own life. And I think that's the trajectory of the gray divorce. They say, I've been yelling, screaming, crying for years to get things to change. And now they're in the season of despair. It's not going to change. Now what? I'm in my 50s. I'm in my 60s. I still have, good life until my mid-80s. What am I going to do? And they're saying I'm almost willing for my church to be mad at me and upset with me, for my family to be upset with me, because I'm that despaired.
Sharon, someone I know called me not long ago and said, hey, I came home and there was a note. Yeah. And it just said, hey, I'm gone. Mm-hmm. And she's gone. I mean, it was like drop the mic, drop your jaw type of shock. And she just said, I'm done. I'm out of here. And see, Sharon, the challenge here is you can get to a place where you begin to believe that there is no path forward for us. And that's a painful place to be. It's a painful place to live by yourself. Yes. Lodged in your heart, this level of brokenness. Some may be wondering, why are you guys spending so much time on explaining this negative, quote, spiral or spin that couples are in? I've learned through the years, and I think Sharon has too, that you got to have a why for. How did we get here? Yes. What in the world happened to us? Yes. And I found, especially for men, that if they can begin to wire in here and go, dude, I had no idea. Yes. I didn't see what happened to us. Nobody's ever said that to me. All I know is I don't like her. She's nasty. You need to fix her.
All I know is that she's just been angry at me. Yeah. She complains all the time. Nothing's ever good enough. Yeah, I'm always disappointing her. So I've just heard her anger. I did not look underneath that to really her longing. Even she says, but wives say, well, you should have known. I was saying, how about a date? How about... I told you all the things you were doing wrong and you did nothing. And he says, all I could hear is I was a disappointment. You're mad at me. You're angry at me. Yeah. And then she takes about a year or two to process in the inside. What am I going to do? The kids are leaving. I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be by myself. She begins to talk to maybe a friend or a therapist, or reads a book that says, you deserve to be loved, gives her a little bit of seed of hope that out there is better than what I'll be here. She then springs it on her husband, who goes, oh my gosh, I didn't know. If only you had told me. And she's like, no, now that I have put the D word on the table, I want a divorce, or I'm ready to. She says, now you're paying the attention. Now the light bulbs go off.
And you need to go to the counselor. You know what? He needs to work on you a little more, or she needs to fix you, because you really, you know what? You're sick. You're a sick person. That's the problem. Sharon, we're fighting time here. In the midst of this journey, then, part of the obvious is you've got to stop this negative communication spiral spin. Somewhere you've got to create a safe spot, because people have been so wounded, almost mortally wounded by someone who's supposed to love them. And then you've got to figure out how to get emotional strands of connectedness going again. And that's the hard part. And that's where these intensives and things like that come in, because if you're just going to try to fix it on maybe a half hour or 45-minute counseling session or something like that a week, we're probably not probably not going to make it all that well. Although
Right.
I want to say this. People who actually seek out marriage counseling, in a significant majority of the times, they're getting the help they're needing.
Yes.
The intensive model is to, quote, hyper jump that thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because waiting an hour a week over 6 months or 8 months, sometimes that little bit of growing journey is just bite sizes in eating the elephant, and it works well for a lot of couples. But a lot of couples that are sinking, or their feet are over the edge of the cliff and they're getting ready to fall, the intensive sitting for 3 to 4 days, getting to the heart of the issue, helps them all at once to get acclimated. Oh my goodness, I now see the history of our marriage, where I see where the moments where you were hurt and wounded and your spirit started closing. Oh, you weren't angry at me. This wasn't about you being disappointed in me. This was about you needed me and I wasn't there. I get now at those points in our marriage when I thought, I'll guard, protect, withdraw, shut down because you're mad, you're disappointed, can never please you. No, that anger was actually you needed me. And there's a softening that starts happening and an awareness and understanding. And as you said, men then get acclimated in this crazy making cycle. You mean when my wife says, don't touch me, get away? Actually, it means no, stay in the room, soften her and just be there gently so she can melt and come close. You're like, oh, all the times, you were so mad like that. I just pushed you away. But when couples can come and sit and start looking at the cycles that have shaped their closing of their spirits, they then go, oh, it makes sense. It's not maybe that you're the wrong person for me. It's that this cycle has so pulled us apart.
Destroyed, and
and the cycle
the
has
beauty.
made us enemies.
Yeah.
Yes. And now we're depleted, dying on the vine. And now what's our journey back?
Marriage is not for the faint of heart.
No.
We know that it takes a lot of love, hard work, time and effort
Yes.
to keep your hands together.
Yes. And God said, loving well is the greatest thing. If you haven't loved well, your life is empty. But God also knew He was commanding us to do something that was going to be really, really difficult. And Tim, to do the difficult thing, it requires character and courage.
Yeah.
And we have to grow ourselves so that we can love well. And it's possible.
Yeah.
Because God said, I want you to do it. And God says, I know what it's like to love someone who keeps pushing against you, kicking against you, who's not there for you, who turns against you. Talking about us as human beings and, the story of God's beloved us people. He knows what it's like to be in a painful, difficult relationship where God's saying,
the God of Hosea understands.
yeah, He understands that. But He said, I also have put inside of you a way of knowing how to grow back and how to work back, to not placating or just putting up with, be a good wife and stay there and then die empty on the vine.
yeah,
No, that's not God's best.
Maybe God's saying something to you right now, wherever you're at in your relationship, and maybe it's time. I bet you that if you began to just gently pursue a path forward, ask God to open up your heart, bring into your life all the resources, services, whatever that's necessary, who knows where this could go. Sharon, if people want to learn more about you, by the way, and the Safe Haven Relationship Center, where can they go?
They can go to safehavenrelationshipcenter.com. Thank you, Tim.
Incredible clinic, a lot of resources. Sharon is an excellent writer and obviously an incredible thinker, and she gets relationships really well. I would go visit that again, safehavenrelationshipcenter.com. As always here at the American Association of Christian Counselors, and we invite you to visit our website at aacc.net. We got a lot of training programs and resources up there too for you. We care about your mental health, your relationships, and most importantly, your relationship with God. And somewhere in the midst of it, He loves us in spite of who we are and continues to push us and challenge us to know Him in greater ways and to enjoy this journey called life. Sharon, again, what a delight to have you on behalf of Zach, our entire team at AACC. Thank you for joining us here on Life, Love, Faith, and Family.
Oh, thank you, Tim. It's an honor.